Does it automatically make us go live?
It's live now. Yeah. So
Sweet.
there's probably no intro.
I guess we don't have an intro on. I'm used to like an intro, like that 3-second countdown.
We're here.
All right, awesome. Let me pull up this over here. Like I said, I kind of expected that. But so first and foremost, let's go ahead and introduce you.
Yeah, I'm Nicholas Mueller. I'm the creator of Demon Hunter Raven, and I like creating comics, and I like dispensing business and marketing information and connecting with other people, to simply put it.
Yeah. Sorry, I was making sure we're actually on, since I've never done them before. So Nick, you've been part of indie for quite a while. You started your career, I think last time we talked to you, you said 2005. Am I correct?
Yeah, roughly about is when I kind of started dabbling into the business. Like way before Facebook. I mean, that was once MySpace was still currently being used by people. So I wasn't using that as a networking tool to get into a lot of places. But it's when you had a lot of those underground independent publishers that were trying to get their stuff out there. And, you did a lot of anthology work back in the day. If you're looking to get published, the whole entire roadmap has changed from what it was, 17 years ago. So the contrast between today and back then is social media completely. So
would you say that things have gotten better for your average indie publisher?
Depends on how you handle it. First, I would say now things are more transparent than ever. So back in the day when we didn't have the ability to learn stuff on the instant, I mean, you still could, but like now we have that direct connection to the person that said it. If you're not transparent with your operations, your work, and how you go about your stuff, that can slant or cause issues, or maybe make things better for you. Not to go super deep on this, but people want even their corporations, their businesses, to be somewhat idealistic nowadays and to represent the moralistic standard of what we do and go about our things nowadays. So that wasn't such a big deal back then.
True. We didn't have the social media piece where we can go back 10 years and see the stupid stuff you said when you were 21 or I'm pretty sure everybody can say that at some point they posted something that maybe now they look back on, they're like, I wish I hadn't posted that.
I do that daily, so it doesn't change.
Yeah, Facebook memories, it's a great way to be.
Yep.
I was like, man, I post a lot on my cat. I need to, but as far as now, again, I think we've talked before. I was doing music back when MySpace was a thing, and seeing music kind of grow through social media, and now being part of comic books. When you started in the indie community, go ahead and tell everybody like what you or who you worked with back when you first started.
Yeah, so I started out really doing fan comics really at first, and I was just networking in these back when forums were still a thing. And you went onto these chat rooms and stuff. We're dating ourselves here. And you would just kind of connect with people, and you'd find people that are like, hey, I'm trying to get published. There's an anthology that's going on. Let's hook up and do something. So, you would do like a 12-page or a 4-page or a 6-page, just something to get in there. Because back then, in order to get into like Aspen, Image, or DC or Marvel, you had to have a portfolio. You had to show that you could be published. Well, to get published by the Goes, you had to have a publishing sort of list behind you, or portfolio of that even. And so one of the ways is you'd jump into anthologies, and you would hopefully get published in those, just to show that, hey, I can meet this and I can do it consistently, or I have a body of work. So I dabbled in several that never got published or produced or just died on the spot. But one of the ones that I ended up having a reoccurring spot in was If X Anthology Works, and they published, I think, mainly out of Michigan, and they put out like quite a bit. They were bi-monthly, and me and another guy, Chris Brown, would have maybe 6 pages or 4, depending upon the story, in each one of those volumes, and they're based upon a certain category. So your theme had to fit that particular anthology. They ranged anywhere from 20 some pages or so, but a lot of times you're doing that for the notoriety and to build up your resume. So you do a lot. Sometimes you do that paid, sometimes you do it free. And so I ended up doing a lot of free work, not because I was stupid, but because I wanted to build up a resume with other people. We were all helping each other out. Problem is, I took on so much work that I just ended up overworking myself, because you're doing your day job, then you're going home, you're doing the night job, you're trying to live a social life, and at some point you got to sleep in between and eat, and so you got to miss out on some of those parts. So I got sick and just kind of, So I got sick and kind of just left it for a while and just absolutely just abandoned everything. And I just couldn't keep up with anything. And, it wasn't paying the bills. So,
What made you want to come back?
I think for most people, if they have a creative drive in them, at some point, you have to go back to it. Um, Also, the landscape has changed so much that the ability to put out content is so much different back then. I mean, you can still do the anthology thing, but you've got webtoons, you've got web hosting services, you got social media that you can just put up something on Facebook and keep consistently putting out work. Um, and now you have a direct connection with the audience, the people that you want to read directly to you. You're not going through a third party publisher to get your stuff. Like back then, you had to go through a publisher if you wanted that direct connection. Um, I think at that point, webcomics were kind of coming in their infancy, or they were just becoming something. Um, but at that point, being able to connect with other people is just uh, much more fun. You have a much more personal, interconnected ability to tell stories, connect with people. I mean, there's people selling their stuff online nowadays, and they're making a living off of this. So it's a better time now than ever to get into this stuff.
Yeah, I would say that the move more towards a digital platform for everyone kind of opened up. I mean, it's literally like you're going to be able to connect with fans all
Yeah.
over the world. I mean, I'm looking at the comments. We've got people. I know Nate is from Australia. Brett's from Georgia. I'm from North Carolina, and here we are all connecting on a
Yeah,
virtual platform and
definitely.
supporting each other. I think that has a big play in a lot of our bodies of work now, is being able to collaborate with someone who I would have never seen your work prior to this.
Right, right. Yeah, that makes a big difference. The chat isn't showing up for me. I'm probably having a little malfunction on myself here, so I'm gonna.
Yeah, it's on. I think if you hit the comments
I
on the
gotta.
right side.
No, see, mine's goofed up all right now. It's just not even showing anything. So I will create a little extra one over here.
Yeah, we got.
I have a separate toolbar up for just YouTube.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've got the Facebook side open on my computer. So if anybody does have any, comments in the section, I'll try to bring them up. We got Brett said hello. Nate's in there. He's Slate Comics. I'm probably going to butcher this. I apologize. HD5.
Ickfish5. He is a good friend, and he's got a YouTube channel too called Sunday Fun Days. So
Awesome.
I think you're streaming tonight, aren't you, buddy?
Yep. Calvary Collective is in here as well. Awesome. Thank you everybody for joining us tonight. Purpose of this chat and this channel is to talk about business and comic books, and because I was talking to Nick earlier, and one of the biggest things that I see on a daily basis is how do I grow and how do I reach more people? And a lot of this, I mean, what it sounds like to me is everybody wants to get bigger than their social media platform. And right now, from my perspective, a lot of us creators like hinge on this on social media to get our work out. And Nick has experience with prior to the boom of Instagram and social media, Twitter, Facebook, those things. And I'd love to see your work grow. I mean, you released, you're about to release your third book on Kickstarter tomorrow, correct?
Yes. Launching at 12 p.m. Central Time. If people show up, that would be cool. I would be pleasantly okay with that.
Well, I will be there. I signed up on there to get the notifications.
Sweet.
I like to race and be the first one if I can. I know there's no big plus to that. I just like doing it. I've tried for the last few. I got beat out because I was too busy trying to pick which packages I want to do.
I'll send you a preview tonight. I did that for my Patreons.
Oh, there we go.
But I'll send you one so you can pick your thing right away.
Yeah, I want to be quick. Nate's going to be there. He's going to be there tomorrow. So
Nice.
Going into business for a lot of indie comic books as it is Kickstarter. A lot of us do rely on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, a lot of these funding platforms to get our book out. So this is going to be your third Kickstarter. What have you learned on Kickstarter that maybe you can give to people, or what did you do, leading up to the launch of your third Kickstarter that maybe you didn't do with issue 2 or issue 1 and you wish you had?
I'm probably not going to say anything new or revolutionary that people haven't heard before, but I'm going to probably repeat a lot of the truths, the statements that are just applicable to anybody. And if you can apply these, then you just got to set yourself up for success. But number one is you got to build up a fan base beforehand. And that can be really hard because we are in a very oversaturated market now. There's so much more content and things for people to choose from than what it was even 5 years ago. The customer also is being more picky about what they're choosing. You've got to deliver. You've got to show that you are willing to create quality content. You've got indie, and then you've got indie. So there's going to be two differences there, and people are picky. So if you can spend time and work more on building your audience, building a fan base, people that want to support you and want to back your products, your works, your creations, then you go to Kickstarter. Then you go to Indiegogo. Don't go there looking for backers. Don't go there looking for an audience. Because if you can set yourself up and bring people to that place, you're going to have a much easier time.
Yeah.
But that can be hard because for some people, they think they have a good following. Sometimes your follower count doesn't translate into sales. It doesn't translate into actual followers. Some of those people might just be looking at you for free content. How do you distinguish that? For some of us, it is on that battleground of when we put up that Kickstarter, we think we've got a good back, and we think we've got everything we need, and we hit that button, we go live, and we sit and we watch nothing happen. That was my first experience. I thought I had a good backing. I was kind of building up my base. I had some good interest. I was putting up daily content. I even put up the first 20 pages for free so people knew what they're going to get. Had several people say, "Yeah, man, I'm going to get this book." I was like, "All right, man, I'm set up for success. Let's do this." And I hit live. And then I sat there and I went, they didn't show up. They never came. You're going to find out also, too, when you first put out something, is that there's a lot of hesitation for most people. You're a first-time creator, or your first time putting something up there. A lot of people want you to prove yourself. They don't want to just pull the trigger on a first-time creator. They don't want to just be the first person to buy a new product because there's a lot of errors. And are you going to come back? Are you going to do it again? So in some cases, you want to set yourself up for a lower bar, a lower expectation. And when you learn from that too, learn from it. Talk to those people that did back you. The people that are willing to spend money on you are the most important people you can listen to. If they're willing to put $1 on your name, go back to them, ask them, like, why'd you back it? What did you like about it? Get feedback. That's the most important thing we can do as creators. And that is one of the best things that social media provides us, is whether you like it or not, feedback is there for you. So get ready for the criticism, the insults, but also the praise.
You have a Patreon as well.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you have a kind of from a business aspect, you have multiple forms of revenue for your company, your comic, your publisher.
Yeah.
Patreon, how have you seen that grow? How do you grow that? I've had a lot of creators that have kind of thought about the idea of creating a Patreon, but they're afraid to because they look at it like, well, I'm already going to Kickstarter asking for money. How can I create a Patreon where I ask for a monthly fee?
Right.
For one, what made you think about doing a Patreon? For two, how successful is it? And three, how do you differentiate your Patreon content versus your Kickstarter content?
Right. So the number one word I'm going to hit everyone with here is the word value. If you're not providing value, who's going to want to come and back you? You can put out a product on Kickstarter, people will like it. But if you want to get anything else out of that, you've got to provide value. You've got to provide something consistently. So for me, Patreon has been for me to provide something on a monthly basis consistently. It's small right now. I'm spending more time working on the Kickstarters and expanding my base. So Patreon takes kind of a lower concern on my tier of things that I'm working on. But with this next campaign, we're going to go a little bit more in terms of trying to build that up. So the people that are on it right now are kind of my beta testers, the people that are helping me give me my feedback right now of like, we want to see more of this. I want you to do more of that. Or, hey, we really like this. But they're getting exclusives. They're getting to see stuff that I'm not showing anywhere else. One of the things I decided to do is, now that I've had 2 successful campaigns and they've grown monetarily and expanded in backers and audience, is to then decide, what do I want to put out there? So I stopped doing process stuff on Instagram and on my other places. And now I just show final images on social media. But people that are on my Patreon get to see me work in progress. They get that reassurance that something's going on. I'm not just sitting there dead going, well, maybe I'll get to it tomorrow. I'm consistently working. I've got something new every single day. Most people, maybe they do like a batch at the end of the month or beginning of the month, but I've had something every single day. And there's an ongoing story going on right now. So where we left off in chapter 2, those that wanted to learn more about the story can read it on a weekly basis right now. Once the Kickstarter is done, that's going to get ramped up, and that's going to get completely bolstered into something much more exquisite and a higher quality. So been taking the feedback that people have been giving me, and we're going to boost that up into something far more exceptional. But the one thing I can say is provide value. If you want to hit Kickstarter, that's the final product. That's where you bring everyone to. Patreon is where you reward people with special items. And to go off on a little tangent here is, we're independent. We provide a specialty item. We provide a specialty service. We're not the big two. We can't compete with the big two. We can't compete on the scale, level, or grandeur that they provide. So we have to kind of make what we do work for us. So then you also have to think of, what's your reader base? Knowing your audience is going to be the biggest part of what you're doing. What is their age group? Like, Instagram provides a really good biometrics, if you're under the business account, to look at who's liking your stuff, what age range are they, the ratio from male to female. So you can kind of slim it down as to who is looking at your stuff, where they're from, and then take about, maybe a guess of, okay, out of these 20 people, I can estimate this much about them. So then you know your target demographics. And then also, when you look at the system of who's buying, look at who's buying in terms of the economy and everything. You can see that's from 30 and up. And then you can break that down into different demographics and everything. So one of the things is, if you know your audience, you can create a product for that particular group. How many of us are probably going to want to buy a Sesame Street specialty comic book on Kickstarter? Probably none of us. So, make your product fit the demographic and your market audience. Don't create a manga for people that want Western comic book superhero books. Don't proclaim yourself to be something you're not. Just say what you are and put it out there, and the people will come to you, and you'll find your niche. But there's so many little intricate things there that are yeah. A little tangent there, but
Oh, I mean, that's what this is for. I mean, it's great information for everybody. Like I said, your second Kickstarter, from what I believe, was super successful for you, correct?
Yeah, it grew leaps and bounds. Because I was putting out my first book with the first one, and no one showed up. I really relied on networking and for people to kind of help me out. And the biggest thing that actually was the successful part for that was I delivered. I didn't just take 6 months, 9 months to put out something that I could have done in a month. And nothing against the guys that do take 9 months, because I'm not going to say anything against that. If you're keeping people updated and you're letting them know that, hey, we're up this far, we have this much, like, keep people updated. I'm not saying you have to do it fast. Just keep people updated. But the fact that I delivered was probably the most successful part, because then I immediately attacked the energy that was already there, the people that knew me, and I completely jumped on that to create a bigger flow of that. That's one of the things that we tend to miss in the indie crowd, is monthly books have a monthly reoccurrence. We can, Batman, is coming out every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Spider-Man's coming out every 2 weeks, and he's got 4 titles. You want Spider-Man? Go to the store, get Spider-Man. Read it on Comixology. We lack that ability to keep consistently putting out such reoccurring products. So we lose a lot of that excitement that people have. When you take a year to make a product, you're going to have to assume some people are just going to lose their excitement, because people just aren't as interested. Their attention span is losing. Yeah. It's slowly disappearing.
That's I was going to say the same thing. With the world we live in, you look at the complaints that came when The Boys went episodic. Everybody was up in arms because they didn't get to binge the entire story. Same thing when Disney Plus did that with The Mandalorian. I think we're in a unique situation now, to where I think a lot of us do have a lot more free time, being home so much, not being able to go out, these things. So we want to fill that time with entertainment, comic books, movies, music. I mean, everything these days. An album comes out. I remember when I was young, you had to go to the store, you get the album, and then you tape, CD, whatever it was. Now it's like, oh, it launched today, cool. Spotify, thank you. Yeah,
just listen on the go. It's here, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, and also accessibility is probably one of the worst things, and that's the comic industry in general. We have a terrible accessibility problem. We're not like manga or internet books where you can just go and grab it. I mean, how many of us can find our stuff on Amazon? your ability for people to just grab your stuff is incredibly hard. If you're just simply relying on Kickstarter or Indiegogo or just crowdfunding sources for people to get your stuff, and you're not providing other avenues or places for people to come and get your stuff, you're missing the secondary market. You're missing the people that are coming in at the end. Don't just believe that they're going to come back because they'll remember to come back on your next one, because they might be at that point like, oh, whatever. Hey, I guess it wasn't a big deal.
And as you were saying, we lose a portion of our fan base when we take a year to put out a book, or honestly, even 3 to 6 months. Sometimes you'll see a drop.
Yeah.
And then that person will see your stuff again, like, oh, I need to get the back issues, and then you won't hear from them again for another 6 months or so, because that constant communication is hard for an indie publisher.
Yeah.
We work full-time jobs, we have families, and then in between all of that, we try and draw a book. And
Excuse me.
And there's artists out there too, or writers, and we all have a different role, I think, as a creator. Yeah. I know creators that are just strictly writers, and then they have someone else draw the book. Then you have to find funding for that. Or I know, like, you and I are in a similar situation to where we all, not only are we the writers, but we're also the artist.
Yeah.
And then then you have to worry about coloring, and there's a lot that goes in. And I think too, readers kind of forget sometimes that there's a lot that goes into the book. It could be from the artistry to the printing. A lot of people forget printing costs for indie, or do it all, and they just put that in the comments. Some people do everything from start to finish, and that's not an easy process. That's not something that just happens overnight, and you can't push that out every month. That's something where you're going to have months on end where you're working on the same book.
Yeah. But if you can keep a consistent schedule and keep people updated, you'll lose a few people in the process, because that's how it is with everything. We all kind of just we just fall out of love with something, or we've become complacent, and we'll eventually maybe come back. But the thing is, you always want to keep something exciting on the cusp of winning someone else over, or reminding people, or that word of mouth. Word of mouth is something so important in our independent circles, of that grassroots sort of effort of selling people on something. One of the things I can think of that has been exponentially growing beyond any measure has been Tim Lim and Mark Pellegrini's Common America. They started out with Black Ops, All Might, and some really cool, just funny comics. And they grew to the point where they went from maybe 800 backers to 2,000 backers.
Oh, wow.
From several different campaigns. But it was through grassroots, word of mouth. They weren't doing like these huge, giant campaigns or anything like that. Just good word of mouth. They're good books, good art, and they found their fan base. So it's possible, but you've got to put the hard work into it. You've got to be dedicated. But they also hit a really good, successful idea of they pump out something every 3 to 4 months, and they're 60 pages.
Oh, yes. I mean, that's a lot of content too. So you're not just, you get a 15, 20 page book and you're reading through it in 10, 15 minutes.
Yes.
And there's the reader base, that all the little small nuances that we put into them. And then you've got, the readers that just want to read the story real quick and be caught up on what's going on.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, we're going to lose some of those people in transition. I like that your Patreon provides your fans that constant communication. And, I work in sales. I've been in sales for close to, over 20 years I've been doing sales. And the key thing about sales and growing your book of business has always been constant communication, which honestly, when I first came into the comic book, like indie comics and growing my brand, I honestly didn't think about the constant contact piece, because me as a reader, I've been a fan of Spawn since the first book came out.
Yeah.
I never had to think about that constant communication, because if I saw Spawn, I wanted to buy Spawn.
Yep.
If I saw Batman, I wanted to buy Batman. It didn't dawn on me that, and it was ignorant of me to think that people would just see Crit and want to buy Crit. It was, I have to keep Crit in their face, because I'm not on T-shirts. I'm not on billboards. I'm not all over the TV. You don't have, you can't go to Walmart and walk by an aisle and see all my stuff. I need to constantly remind them that, hey, Crit's around.
Right.
So, the constant communication bit for a lot of these artists. And I think you're the one that taught me about Instagram's algorithm changes, and how, you need to post this many times per day. You need to post like best.
And it just changed again this year too, where they're putting the part where you save the image as the most important part. Like who cares? Like the way, and it completely dwarfs your ability to interact with who you are. Like it's a terrible platform now.
Well, I've been trying to educate my fan base because again, with the business background,
Yeah.
One thing that they've always taught us in sales is don't just sell to your customer, but educate your customer.
Right.
If you educate your customer on communication skills, you're going to have better responses from them to where you're arguably training them how to help the business. And so I've been on all of my lives and my posts. I've been trying to don't just like, it's save, share, comment, then like. And I try to embed that as, if you want to see more of my content, this is how you will, and I think that a lot of creators, I'll see some where they post daily. I'll see others that don't post for a couple of weeks. And then I'll see a story sometime of a creator I haven't seen in like a week or two. And I go to their page and I'm like, oh my God, how did I miss all this content?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so that's actually what sparked it. There was a company I actually really enjoy, and Concrete, I hadn't seen their stuff.
Oh yeah.
To find out, I just, for some reason, it wasn't showing up on my feed. So then I'm a creeper and I go through and I like and I comment on all the stuff, and I'm one of those guys. But I want to share that support. And so I think that educating our readers and our fans, hey, make sure you you save my stuff or share it. If you do one of those two things, I'm more likely to show up on your feed and other people's feeds.
Yep.
So while social media is great for us, it also kind of hurts us in a way if we're not using it properly. I know that
they want to make money off of you. They want to get you into the advertisement part, which
they dump money into these lives, for everyone to have like the bandwidth for us to have lives. They want to see people using them. So I know that if you do more lives in a month, they're more likely to A, give you more screen time, B, they're more likely to put your stuff up on the Reels page. There's a lot of there's a lot of tactics that go into growing. So what would be one piece of advice you would give someone who today opens their becomes a publisher, because realistically becoming a publisher these days really only takes you having an idea. I mean, we're in a great place for that to be the thing. Like, I am a publisher because this is my idea. I'm posting it, therefore I'm a publisher. And a guy just today comes across your page and says, Nick, how do I grow my stuff? Like, what's the first thing that you would say to them as a brand new creator?
Yeah. So actually I got this question last night of how to build your audience. They messaged like, hey, I noticed you got backers on Kickstarter. I'm like, yeah, okay. It's not much, but no, it's great to have backers either way. But how do you build an audience? And that is a hard question to answer on any level, because what works for me may not work for you, and what works for you may not work for me at all. A lot of it is trial and error. It's R&D. You got to kind of work your way around, but don't just pigeonhole yourself into one social media site. There's 10 of them out there. You might not find your audience on Instagram. You might find them on Twitter. You might find them on Facebook. You might find them on Gab, Minds, Parler, whatever. And there's certain people that's all they stick to. They only go to those places. Maybe you need to go to Webtoons. Once you start engaging with people, don't just stay to your little corner. Let's use Instagram, for example. You're posting stuff and it's getting run through the algorithm. And it's being shown to people. Maybe you're getting a few likes, but you're not really standing out. How do you stand out to people? Start interacting with people, get them comments, start friending people, start following people, start commenting on stuff and saying something unique more than just a cool, awesome. Ooh, that's cool. Like, say something interesting. I want to use Gary V's sort of technique here is give your 2 cents. Pick 10 people for like half an hour and say something really interesting, poignant, really, something really nice that will make them stop and look at your comment for a few seconds. When, maybe 2 of those people only come back and look at your page. And now this is the part that's going to be most important, is your page has to be set up for success, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. decide how are you going to display success, because success is not the same for everyone. Do you want to be successful on Kickstarter? Do you want to be successful through just back end sales or whatever? Set yourself up for your direction that you want to go, because when people start directing you back to your main page and you've got nothing there,
Yep.
you're dead in the water. You're not sailing. You're not going.
I want to touch base on something there. I've taken a few marketing classes, and my wife and I are part of a couple different networking groups for work and for our businesses. And one thing that they were talking about, there's a social media marketing manager in one of our networking groups, and she was telling everyone one thing that Instagram does look at when you're commenting isn't just a bunch of emojis. So if you're going to a page and just putting fire or thumbs up or whatever that is, it ignores it. It actually looks for 4 consecutive words or more to count you as actually interacting with that post. So if I'm trying to grow my visibility, yes, it's great for my fans to interact with my page, but it's also great for me to interact on other posts.
Yeah.
So that's one thing aspiring creators should do, is find, it's really good, especially if you're hitting up popular pages. I really like this. This is awesome. Actually, don't use "this is awesome" because that's only 3 words. But 4 or more words.
This is awesome. Okay. There you go.
There you go. Hey, man, this is awesome. But at the same time, I think that you hit on the nail with that quote. Like, use your 2 cents. If you're a creator and you're looking at someone else's creation, you should have an opinion of it. And I say this all the time. The first time I saw yours, I thought you were a major published book. Like, I was actually nervous about talking to him. Like, oh, that's a big book, because
I was really good at making people think other things.
Exactly, you sold it. And
that's half of it, is you got to sell yourself. You got to sell what you're working.
Yeah, when I go to some creators' pages, and I've said this a few times, I look at the content they're sharing. Does the content relate back to what they're creating? Or are you posting, which 5 Marvel characters would you pick for your war? Are you like, and one thing I try to say, unless you're a politically based, subject matter, keep politics, keep religion, keep things that have nothing to do with your creation out of it, because you don't know who you're going to turn away. We see this a lot now with social media. You don't know who you're going to turn away, so don't put those things that could.
And one of the things we used to say when artists were looking for work, they may have had one image that got shared across social media, and you're like, I want to buy something from that guy. I want to commission him for some work. And you go on their page and you're like, all right, let's see what else he's done. And you're like, nothing, no art. Like, they've posted that one thing, and then there's just tons of nothing there, like jokes or reposts of other things. And it's important to treat your social media as almost like a resume nowadays, like a portfolio, like it's your brand. If you want to do personal stuff, try to set up a separate account for that. Because you never know, just like you were saying, Chris, who's going to come in and who wants to see your stuff, who's a potential buyer, who's a potential reader. Because if you're not setting yourself up for success in those areas, you're gonna fail right away. Like, if you're trying to, let's say Chris is creating crits and he's putting out his book, he's putting out his content, and you're like, man, I'm really digging this stuff. And then you get to his page, and 5 out of his 6 images on his Instagram are fan art of other people's of like DC or Marvel characters. You're like, not really into this, and you're going to instantly get people to stop caring. So if you want to do something separate from that, create a separate account. Don't just make it like a hodgepodge or like a Pinterest board of random stuff. Just stay focused. I think that's the biggest thing that most people need to learn, is stay focused. Create that one thing, create an identity for it, create that one brand. And then if you want to dabble away from that, don't put it on the same page.
Yeah. Actually, talking to that, I have a lot of creators that I like to do a fan art for. And so I set up a separate account for my artwork. Anything that isn't crit related goes on that page.
Right.
Not because I don't want to give the person any, accolades or, spread their name on my personal, on my homebrewed page.
Yeah.
It's because I don't, like, I did a cover for Jason, and I've done a picture of Omen for Nate. Both of which I'm very, very proud of. But at the same time, I didn't want those I didn't want someone to go to my page and go, oh, are you working on the next Omen book? No, that's Slate Comics, not mine. Go check out Slate.
Yep.
And because I had a couple people that saw one of the pieces I did, and they were like, oh, are you on that book? No, I'm not. That made me realize, like, hey, maybe I should separate these, because I don't want my fan base to get confused. And just like, if now for instance, Nate and Slate Comics is actually doing issue 0, which is going on our Indiegogo. I don't mind for them to do that. Like, go ahead and post that stuff, because it makes sense. That's also your product just as much as it's mine. Now we're doing a shared piece. Just like if Homebrewed was working on a piece of Omen, then we could cross do that way. Yep. But I see a lot of creators posting continual art from other pages. And if you go to Marvel's page, you don't see anything but Marvel. And
but yeah, people are still confused which side Batman's on. Is he Marvel, DC? I'm still
right. Like you don't get confused. Well, I guess you do when the toy marketing, because I've seen that before, where it's like Justice League and it's got Spider-Man in it or something, because it came from overseas.
Hometown Heroes or something like that. The Super Avenger Justice League. Yeah.
Right.
I think it ultimately is we don't have name power. So the big thing that a lot of people remember is you're an indie creator. You're not a household name. You're not some big giant. You don't have a name to you. And so to build an audience, you're starting from scratch, from zero. So you have to have a good eye for readership, marketing, and is your product good enough that's going to get into people's hands? Like we could tell you a bunch of things about how to get readers, but can you keep them? Too is another whole entire problem.
Well, I think that comes into, if we're going to also be talking about business in comics, I think there's a lot that goes into that. I know tons of creators, and being one, I started off thinking I can draw a picture, people are going to like it. Now I have a fan base. It's that simple. It's not, because for depending on what level you want to be, you had mentioned webtoons. I think webtoons is a great resource for starting artists, especially if you can't afford an entire book to be published. Or maybe you're like me. I should have, honestly, I say this all the time, I should have put my first book on webtoons, because looking back at it, like not Crit 1, but Crit that doesn't exist in any print form ever.
My first version of Demon Hunter started out on webtoons. It was so bad it crashed and burned. So I got some of the best feedback from people coming back, where just like, it's just not working. Like, it's there. There's potential. Like, the people that said they saw potential made me rethink everything. I went, I've got to do this better. Like, you could see some of those original stuff if you go way down my Instagram page, which I am not advocating for because it doesn't stand up.
Yeah, don't do that to mine either. I won't delete them because it is the history. But if you're looking for quality work, don't go to my first post.
Yeah.
Well, interesting. One thing that led me to indie and webtoons and this whole journey was One Punch Man. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
A lot of people forget One Punch Man started as a webtoons, and now look where it is. And I reference a few things when I talk about like my inspiration, because I think as creators we've been inspired to create, but what inspires us to move forward with our product? What inspires us for that goal?
Craziness.
Right. Well, yeah, because I think a lot of the creative minds, and I'm a big advocate in like left brain, right brain thinking, and a lot of us can't kind of cross that territory. You have your creative mind, and then you have the right side and left side just work a lot differently. With your right brain people, you're organized, your business, you have this goal, like let me walk 5 steps, 10 steps, 20 steps. You keep doing that. The creative mind is very free thinking.
Yeah,
which that conflicts with trying to grow and move in a certain direction. So I always look at like Todd McFarlane, who is a very creative person, but also a genius in the business world.
Yeah,
I say this all the time. I think the man, actually, the reason I got this new fancy Cintiq was because I saw him use it. Like I admire the man.
Yeah.
And
if it works for him, it's got to work for us, right?
Right. Like, hey, it worked for him. He designs on this thing, so I'm gonna get one, and I'm gonna go broke doing so. But hey, whatever. Totally worth it. When I hit the purchase button.
And the touch on that though is Todd is an amazing showman.
Mm-hmm.
He can so not a lot of us realize that some of the things we love though is because of the showman that brought us to it. Like Stan Lee was a perfect, but nobody realizes the ingenuity that went in because of Jack Kirby. And the craftsmanship that came into it, but you have the showman to thank people that, like, as much as maybe things that Stan Lee did behind the scenes that we may not agree with, and we would probably be pissed if he did it to us. That's a note we need to take of is Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld are great showmen. They know how to sell you because they know how to bring it up to the forefront, how to sell you on it. Like, no kidding, Rob Liefeld's got to be probably one of the best showmen. He knows how to up it and get you like, guys, this is the amazing book. If you read this part, it goes over here and there. Just
Yeah,
enthusiasm.
I will give it to him. I've watched it now. If you've seen me before, you've heard me talk about Rob and
I had to bring him up
with him. But so to that, Rob, like you said, you watch his Robservations.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really good. And the man, again, he sells everything. This is the best. This is the best. This is the best. This is the best. And honestly, to a point, so does Todd. But Todd does it in a less a less cocky way. Todd doesn't come out and say, I'm the best of this, or I'm the best of this, or and he doesn't really talk about himself as much.
He gives it to you straight.
Yeah.
Like if you're sitting down with him, be like, why are you doing that, Chris? Think of it this way, man. Like, he's very hard facts. And now to go on a different path here, not to cut you off here, Chris, is you can go to showman like too. There's another guy that just ran a Kickstarter a little while ago, had the setting to $10,000. And we've talked about this.
I want to click this button. There it is.
Oh, hey, there we go. That's nice.
I was wondering this entire time, how do I do this? Because Brett, he gave me the rundown. I'm like, hey, I know there's a way to make this thing show up. Boom. Sorry, it took me 41 minutes to figure that out.
You got it. But
yeah, I know the campaign you're talking about. We've talked before. But I would love to hear your take on this.
So I think we can all look at that, and immediately the minute we all probably saw that go live, or any time that you caught it, we all probably went, ooh. No. I'm pretty sure that was all our reactions. We all gasped in terror because we all knew what the end result was.
And didn't he make such a big impact on our community that multiple people made YouTube videos about this?
Yes. Yeah. And I'm not gonna say that he's a nice guy, and I don't want to disparage him because he is a nice guy, and I've talked to him a few times, and so his heart was in the right place, but he missed all the important steps before that. Everything. So when people come up to you and say, how do I create an audience, or how do I go out there and do this? It's like putting the cart before the horses. But the thing is, he was marketing it. He was putting up something every day, but he did some really key factors that I will say are no-nos. Tagging everybody in social media posts that don't even care about your stuff. Posting every single day, you're going to lose interest. If you're tagging people and they don't care, that's a really good way to suddenly have people completely jump off and be like, I'm not going to support this guy, period.
So I look at a lot of, when I see someone post a Kickstarter, I say this, I'm a super backer. My wife's not in the room, so she can't yell at me for that. But I do like to look, because even if it's something where I'm intrigued, but maybe not super interested, if you have like a $3 to $5 price point, I don't mind throwing a few dollars your way for something I like. If it's a creator that I've watched and I love like your content, I'm a fan of a very few niche things like sci-fi, fantasy. Like there's a few things I really enjoy. If you hit those categories, I'm going to check you out. But like, his story, I checked it out. It wasn't for me, but I was like, hey, if you have a digital version, maybe at least I can help a little bit.
Yeah.
And share that I backed you. Like I like doing that for people, but like the price points weren't really there. And I saw his goal, and I thought it was a mistake at first because it had a 6 day limit. And speaking to out there, I would say, and mind you, I've only ran one successful Kickstarter, but I've been part of many. I've seen a lot of people be successful. I've done a lot of research before I launched my next two. Look at your product. Look, and if this is your first your first made book.
Yeah.
I thought he was Scott Snyder or something all of a sudden asking for $10,000 in 6 days.
Well, and most people can't even get past $3,000. That's just the average business of your average creator on Kickstarter. And another thing here, you said that really hit me is his price points weren't good. Like you were just saying, you'll back if there's a $5 option. So you can't just create a product. If you want to go and sell this product, you got to understand the value behind it. If mainstream can sell their stuff for $3 physical, we obviously can't match that. There's just no way. So independent is going to be costlier, but we got to give something in return that's going to outweigh that disadvantage of their cost, because at the main store or digital, they could buy 3 of those things for your one thing. So how are you going to be better? How are you going to provide more substance, more content? And for a lot of you, you have to understand retail market value. You have to understand merchandising. What is the value behind your product? Because you don't determine that. Your reader, your backers, your buyers will determine that for you.
Right.
And for a lot of cases, you have to understand we are a special item niche. You go on at a Kickstarter, a lot of these people probably don't even care about reading your book. Let's just put it up front. They're getting it because it's kind of a cool item. It's something for the display. You're a limited item. You're not on comic shops. You're not out in the open market in a lot of cases. You're a special item. And variant covers do exceptionally well on Kickstarter because that's a collector's market. Because the comic industry is made up of people that are speculators and collectors, and they just want to keep adding to their long boxes to their bin collection. The readers are the most rare thing we can come across. And those are the people we all want. But to put it frankly, not all of us are going to get them. It's a short group of people.
And to that point, right? So we're talking about, this breaks down to sales. So if most of your market isn't buying your book, look at TV, okay? TV will buy up entities. Like we see, I'm gonna go with Snowpiercer for one. A lot of people didn't realize that was a comic book. Why? People bought it. Most people never read it. Most people never spread the word about it. It was a niche book, but it did sell well. Why? Because it was a book. So your sales numbers don't necessarily have to reflect your reader numbers, because like you said, I think the last thing I read was 60% of the people that buy your book are never going to open it. Yeah. It's going to go in a bin and
just sit there.
Right. Even so, my father has now 3 of my books, and even said, like, I haven't read them. Why not?
Yeah.
I collect them. My dad's a collector. He's the one that introduced me to comic book collecting.
Yep.
And he said, if you want to send me a digital, I'll read the digitals, but I'm not opening these ever. These are, and again, on his side, it's an emotional connection because I made it. But
I'm in the same boat. I mean, behind me, I have some stuff that I just want for collection. I just want for me to display because it brings a value that I can't expense or tell people because it has a feeling behind it.
Right.
And not to cut you off here, but
no, go ahead.
People make their purchases based upon an emotional value behind something. Let's use the example of trailers before a movie when we could still go to movie theaters. You're sitting in that audience. You're sitting there before the movie starts and the trailers start. And as you're watching the trailers, we're all prejudging it. Maybe the first one we're like, no, that's not me. That's not going to go. That's stupid. We're not going to see it. Then the next one, you're like, whoa, that was awesome. I got to go see it. You're creating an emotional response to something. And it creates an urgency. You have to go get it. You have to go see it. So a lot of times we make a purchase decision based upon an emotional response to something. And you can disagree with that. But if
I won't.
If you're not doing it right, then why should people care about your product? And this is something I'm going to contribute this to Tom Hutchinson. He broke it down for me. He goes, first, number one, ask why people should be buying your product. Number two, what sets you apart from the competition? We're in an oversaturated market. Mm-hmm. And he said, if you don't know why people should be buying it, what sets you apart, then you should not be going out there selling your stuff.
Right. And
so that's the biggest thing.
To that point, we as creators love our product. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I say this a few times. I've heard everybody that makes a character, my character can beat your character. We are now like, 3rd grade on the playground. My dad will beat your dad, because we love that character so much that we know it's better than yours. It's stronger than yours. It'll go down fighting longer than yours, everything.
Yeah.
But that's all of us. So when we're going to market our books and our characters, the last thing that I want to say is, hey, Caliber's going to fight to the death. No, Caliber's almost been dead. Mm-hmm. I want to market that way. I like, I find what works for my books, just like you've done very well with yours. Your artwork is phenomenal. I think your artwork.
Let's hope it continues, though.
Well, I mean, your artwork's so good, it like literally made me think that it was,
thank you.
One of the big. Well, I say big 3 because I consider Image more of a main. They can say they're indie all day long, but come on.
Yeah, when you've got powerhouses like that behind the name, they're not really independent.
Yeah. When you've sold more movies than other publishers, yeah. But to that, it's like when people come and they want to see your book, Yeah, I hate my character can't be. Yeah, I hate that. There was a comment.
Yeah, from Jack. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's true. We see that because we love them and we have this passion behind it. But use that passion that you have there to get people interested in your character, because just like when I've talked to you or any other creator that I talk to on a regular basis, I always see a passion there, which is what makes me want to go check your book out.
Yeah. Yeah. Passion will sell a lot of stuff.
Yeah, if you
People
go,
can tell when you're BSing them. They
yeah,
can tell when you're not giving it what you. People can tell a sleight of hand.
hmm
Not that we try to, but in some cases they can tell when your heart's not into it. When you're doing it for money,
yeah.
it shows. And
When you go to Kickstarter continually and don't fulfill on time, but you are
Mhm.
when you haven't fulfilled your last Kickstarter, but you have another two, and one that's launched, and you're advertising your third. I've seen that. I've seen on Kickstarter books where you've got book one of this, and they've got like 10 titles. So you just backed this one. It was due this month. Now they're sending you a link for their next book, and you haven't even gotten this book. And then on top of it, they're offering you a sneak peek at this other book, and you're like, can I not get? I think that's bad business.
It's just too many things all at once. I want to use an example that Brian Ball, the creator behind Rags, who's got a phenomenal Patreon as well that people should check out. One of his advice that he gave me is, if you're a first time creator and you don't have an audience behind you, or you've got a small one and you just want to deliver and you want to keep building, because one of the things we need to do is, when you get an audience, you need to build that. You want to keep building and expanding, because you want those people to talk. Is make sure you put out something. You see so many Kickstarters that go up and they put 3,000, 7,000 as their goal. And if you're just looking just to simply fulfill, set your goal at $500. Set yourself up for success. That you might be fighting. I mean, my first Kickstarter, I fought to get to that $500 mark. I didn't think I was gonna make it. It took me a total of 30 days to hit that, and it was up until the last day that I finally hit it. I mean, we fought inch and nail to get to those people, but because I delivered, those guys came back. And they sat and they told everyone, "Hey, this guy delivers," and I liked what he did. And they came back and they doubled my numbers when I came back.
Yeah, I saw
and,
that.
And I hit that within an hour next time. I thought I was gonna have to fight for those 44 when I did the next campaign. We hit that goal in an hour, and actually less. We hit it in 20 minutes, I think it was. And then it allowed me to do so much more. So if you're looking to gain a reader base, but you want to keep growing it, set yourself up for success so that you can hit those bigger mile marks. Don't think of yourself as a Todd McFarlane now. Think of yourself when he was just getting started, getting those rejection letters from Marvel. Keep throwing those things back at people. Be relentless. I think that was Todd's biggest advice for starting creators: is be relentless. Don't stop. Just because several people said no before you, find that person that says yes. Because then when that person says yes, they'll tell 10 more people yes.
So to that point, I said this the other night on my own personal Instagram. I do collect those rejection letters. I have quite a few in my inbox, and I send them knowing that I'm going to get a rejection, because I don't think what I do is, I love what I do. Don't get me wrong. I have a big passion behind my stuff, but in no way, shape, or form do I think that Marvel should be publishing my stuff. But does that mean that I want them to see it? Yeah, I want my stuff everywhere. If that means that I have to annoy people and continually send these things in, eventually someone's going to notice. And speaking back to Todd, one of the big things that he had said on one of his interviews, we only have to break the top 200 to be noticed, because those first top 100 books are already owned.
Marvel, you're not going to break past those.
Right. Marvel, Disney, Warner Brothers, you have a couple Image books up in there, and maybe once in a while you'll have a different publisher, once in a while. But if you're 101 to 200, someone's looking at you.
Oh yeah, you're getting sales, you're getting numbers.
Yeah, he pulled up the top books of that month, and like the first 109 had TV deals, movie deals. They were doing something. He said, so right now, all you have to be is 110, and some TV show is going to come try and pick you up.
Yeah.
Because, writers and like, think about it. They have to put nothing into it. They just pick your story up and they're like, oh, cool. I have something to work with. Hand this off to the writing team. Make this into a TV show. Make this into a movie, and you're good.
Well, and they're all interconnected in those circles. I mean, Brian Michael Bendis was working within Hollywood areas. Like, he was writing Marvel movies while he was working at Marvel. Like, we don't all have those connections. We're not Mark Miller. We're the thing we're working on. We're talking to a Hollywood director, being like, the movie Kick-Ass. Like, we can't all just be like, what would work better for this film? Do you need me to change this for the comic? And we don't have those connections. And again, that goes back to pay attention to the people that are buying your stuff. Pay attention to the feedback. Those people are going to be the people that are going to be praising you. They're going to be the ones that are going through parading for you. They're going to go through town square screaming for you. Reward those people.
Mm-hmm.
Give them special attention. If we were, and if we treat ourselves like a business and not just like creators at the same time, don't just be like, oh man, I got that for free. No, reward those people.
Right.
Give them something special in return. Keep them loyal. This is how DC and Marvel have kept loyal fans for so long, is they have given something in return.
And to that point, you said something that I try to emulate and say all the time. Don't treat yourself like you're an artist, like you're a creator. We like to use some fancy terms for ourselves. If you have a business name, you are a business.
Yeah.
So remember that, like when you're shopping and you're out there purchasing a product from a business, what do you want that business to do back for you?
Yeah.
I look at it too, like I get a lot of flack on my personal level because I spend a lot of time responding to people. I've actually done this on my personal level for a long time because I was a musician for so long that most of my followers and friends on social media were people that went to my shows. So I felt like, hey, if I don't communicate back, these people are going to continue coming back to my shows. So I always have to be nice. I always have to comment back, say thank you, something like that. If I see a comment on my Instagram, I try to immediately like it. Hey, thanks, thank you. Honestly, sometimes I get a little burned out and I wind up like,
you gotta take a break.
But I do try to contact those people back. I'll be a fan of something that I see and it's from an independent creator, and I'll say, hey man, this is awesome. And I don't think I'm any level of creator. I could see someone with 100 followers or 1,000 and I'll be like, hey, this is awesome. If they don't comment content back or like it or something, it does off put me a little bit like, oh, I put some thought into that and you didn't say anything back.
Right.
So that's something I try to emulate when I'm, again, talking to people that comment on my page.
Yep. Engagement is probably the biggest thing you need in terms of a producing young creator on any level. I mean, you need to keep the engagement. We can't all be Brian Pulido on Kickstarter making $100,000 every time a Kickstarter hits. I mean, we can't all be Ethan Van Sciver hitting those Indiegogos with close to $1 million.
Are they indie though?
Well, I mean, they're independently produced by those people, but they have large facilities. But actually, I will use Brian Pulido as an example. When he first got into Kickstarter, very first time, he wasn't hitting those numbers. It was through grassroots efforts of him treating each part of the process from the beginning of making the book to the art, the design, the composition, to then selling on Kickstarter. He treated each thing with 100% proficiency, that when he got to the packaging and putting it together, that it was just as elegant and as efficient and as wonderful, that by the time it got into that person's hands, every step was thoroughly considered. And a lot of people, I don't think of this, that if you're using a manila mail envelope to send your comics in, that says something to the person receiving on the other end. I only cared enough up until the point you backed it and you gave me your money. Here's your package in a really unrigid
and I hope it's not bent and ripped and everything.
Yeah, because you don't know who's handling it in the middle. I want to use the Common America guys again, for example. They make custom packages. Doug TeNapel, the creator of Earthworm Jim, when he did his, he made custom packages. They were in these giant boxes with custom art on top of it. When that came in the mail, you felt like someone special. You were like, this is for me? It was like Christmas in your mailbox.
Yeah. I love and hate getting those fulfillments where I don't want to open it.
Yes.
Yeah. That actually inspired me when I was doing Crit. I ordered specific bubble mailers with the Crit logo on them because I was like, hey, these aren't that expensive, and it gives that added value. And so, like, when you're on Kickstarter and you're looking at your book, you've hit your goal, you're about to fulfill. What's that extra little step that you can do to separate yourself? Because a lot of these guys on Kickstarter, think about it. You're launching your Kickstarter on Monday. I know tomorrow. Gary with E4 has his going. You've got I think Tier still has his with Sovereign Comics going. Wingless. I'm literally just off the top of my head, without opening my Instagram to look or my Kickstarter, I know 5 to 6 titles right now that are running, and that's just my circle of friends. So these backers are getting 5 to 10 books at a time.
Yeah.
What's going to make them go, oh man, remember the packaging on that? Or I got this cool sticker, or I got this something cool that makes you stand out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is something that I try to, actually I've been doing with even my first Kickstarter actually didn't fund because I was dumb and made a goal that shouldn't have been a goal.
It happens though. You learn from those
Right.
mistakes.
I talk about it because I learned from it, but I actually still fulfilled all those orders. I just paid for them out of my own pocket out of
Yeah.
like I did what you did. I wanted to be that nice guy that people said, hey, this guy fulfills and he comes through, even if he doesn't make any money. Like I didn't even
Yeah.
collect any money from them. I gave it to him for free.
Mhm.
And I sent a thank you and I said, hey, you backed it. It didn't fund. You didn't pay for it. I still shipped it to you. Can you just post this on your social media? Like,
Oh, and that's another thing too, is if you can get people to engage on its social media without you having to force it or them showing the packages. That was actually a big thing. It was seeing people post their comics on
yeah,
social media. So from a creator standpoint, that's awesome. But if readers, if you're listening to this, that's a big boost for us marketing wise. It tells people that you are going to get a product, and it gets other people that might be on the fence for the next one to kind of go, well, maybe I should consider this. So you're in part doing us a favor. That's a really good way also to show us, to help us out. If you can't afford to buy a book, sharing our stuff is the next big thing. That's almost right next to basically money for us because you're allowing us to reach into areas that we may not be able to. You might have a different reach than what we have. We can only go as far as we can. If people share our stuff, we are then allowed to reach new people, and you might bring in 10 more people that we couldn't have gotten ourselves.
yep. I speaking directly to readers and backers on Kickstarter, I say this all the time. I think a share or you're spreading the word is just as valuable as that $5 or $10
Yeah.
because your $5 or $10 will stop with that back. But even without the backing, your share goes to anywhere from, let's just say the average person, small account, 50 followers, big account, thousands of followers. If we get 1 to 5 to 10 other people to just take a look, just to click the link, and then one of them backs it, it's just like,
Yeah.
that's that grassroots marketing.
Big day. Yeah.
Um, and I think a lot of people don't understand where grassroots marketing and everything comes from. That's that foot to pavement, knocking door that we used to do.
Yep.
I actually did grassroots marketing it was a grassroots marketing / sales. We literally used to canvas and walk around neighborhoods of 100 doors and put door hangers on doors, back before they would just throw them away anyway.
But one person might get interested.
Right, but I remember doing that, and when I was doing it, I would spend hours a day putting a door hanger on a door. And when I started, I was like, "Oh man, this is stupid. No one's gonna call me." But then I started getting a few calls.
Yeah,
I'm like, "Oh man, this is actually working." You gotta remember, 1 or 2 sales on a sales side is good. Just like 1 or 2 shares or just 1 or 2 backs is a good thing.
exactly.
So, if you're just starting off and you're thinking to yourself, grassroots marketing is literally posting every day, finding different outlets to post on, even commenting on people's stuff, sharing things, all these different virtual, social media marketing tactics. They might sound stupid, but once you get that 1 follower, and then you'll get to a point where you're starting to get 3 to 5 followers a day, you're like, oh, this works. You said that to me the last time we did one of these, was that you're starting to see my stuff more. And I was like, okay, it's working, because that was when I first started posting 3 times a day. I kept my page. If you look, I have this emblem that I use for my logos.
Yeah.
And I started designing that within my page because someone said, hey, when they go to your page, you should have a look or like something that says, oh, this is how my page flows, and I started doing that. My wife actually mentioned that I should use light colors and blend colors even with posts. So if you look, I use the color black a lot, but I try to balance them in a way. So yeah, like that grassroots marketing, that grassroots natural growth to your product, because at the end of the day, we're not the big 2 or 3.
Right.
We don't have the pull of, Scott Snyder, Brian Paluto, these people that go to Kickstarter and pull, this massive backing. We're not there. And to think that we are is ignorant.
Yeah. But you can build yourself up to have a relevancy, a reach maybe better than them.
Yeah.
You can create people that are just as loyal to you as they are to a Batman fan. Someone that will follow you through the thick and thin because you've created value. You've given them something that they want in return, or maybe something they didn't even know that they wanted. I think that's what, as creators, we need to remember that we're not just creating for ourselves; we're creating for someone else on the other end to read this. Um, so if you can remind yourselves that yes, you want to create for yourself as well, because at the end of the day, that's where the joy comes from, is creating. Um, but if no one likes what you're creating, then it's just a hobby and you should keep it to yourself.
And when you had said before about getting the feedback, if you get feedback that doesn't sit well, I've gotten feedback. I've said that 100 times. I get feedback all the time that doesn't sit well with me from my family.
Yeah.
But that's what makes you grow. If you want to grow and like I said in the beginning, this is a topic that I've been wanting to talk about for a while because I constantly see on social media, how do I grow? How do I reach more people?
Yeah.
How do I do these things? Because none of us are happy with our current following. We never will be. Honestly, we want to collect followers, we want to collect readers, we want to collect backers. How to do that is to take that negative criticism that you don't like, that and turn it into something positive. You turn it into something positive by looking at it, absorbing it, and moving forward with it. If someone came to me and said, "Hey, your book sucks," I would ask why.
The
first thing
get
is
the criticism.
why.
Yeah, get the feedback.
Tell me why my book sucks. I'll take it. I mean, you can tell me it sucks all day, but why? Well, it didn't have this, or it didn't have this, or it had too much of this. Okay, cool. Well, I promise you on my next book, you know what? I'm going to show it to you and see what you think. I did that with somebody. I had a guy who just wasn't really into my stuff and was honest, very honest with me. I was like, well, hey, check this second book out. What do you think? Oh, man, you really turned everything
Much
around.
better. Yeah.
Yeah. And it hurt the first time. But when he gave me that positive affirmation the second time, I was like, oh, man, I'm good.
Well, and we take it so personal when we get criticism, because any criticism, we consider it to be a reflection of our character. I didn't like that book. We then receive it as, I didn't like you. And it's really hard because we've spent so much time. Maybe sometimes we've spent 9 months, a year working on that thing, and then we show it to people. And their response is, meh. But to go back to your question here, and I know we've slightly answered this, and I just kind of thought of a better way to answer it here is, how do you gain an audience? Let's rewire that question. Think of why are you a fan of the things that you like? What brought you into those fields? Why do you like said item? Re-navigate to think about what brought you into that stuff. Was it a cool picture? Was it a particular story thought? Think of why people like things. When you break it down on a psychological level, you can start then creating content that people will end up liking. Because then you're not thinking about putting out your stuff, putting out your things. You're thinking about what people will like in return. And then you can kind of start experimenting and playing with the idea of like what you're putting out there, what people gravitate. Even look at, I remember one time after I had just done my first Kickstarter, I went to Instagram and I looked at what images got the most likes, so I could kind of determine, okay, this image did the best, this one was received the best, and then start kind of going, this is what I need to go towards more. The ones that got less likes, people weren't into this. I shouldn't be favoring this. I need to go more towards what people are liking. And you're not going to find that overnight. That's not just going to be one night. You're suddenly like, whoa, I got all the information. This could be a year-long process. For me, it was a 2-year-long process of just kind of finding that groove, that direction. And like I said earlier, I failed miserably with my first outing. Not just on Kickstarter, but just on Webtoons. Like, nothing was clicking with anyone. It might take you a while to find your groove, your niche, your click. But when you do, stick with it. Don't fix something that's broken. Don't keep going back and reworking it. Just refine it. That's when you want to start refining, because right now when you're building your audience, you're trying to find something that's working. And when we were talking earlier about staying focused, about not keeping your page centered on a particular idea, don't be jumping all over the place. Make it a gradual thing.
If once in a while post something that's off topic, once in a while is fine. Don't do it on a daily basis. Don't do it weekly basis. I would say like once every 5 to 10 posts. If you have something that's off, that's acceptable. But if I go to your page and I have to scroll through 5 things to figure out what you're creating, I'm probably not going to even get past the 5th thing, to be honest with you. But to one thing that I wanted to address was, you had talked about assessing your posts, right? We are in a business of making our comics. We are our own market research team. Okay, clicking that that link in Instagram or Facebook to see which post of yours does the best is your form of market research. So, you should, and this is the thing that I've been trying to tell people too, be prideful of what you do, because as an independent creator, you are a business owner, you're a marketing manager, you're a sales manager, you wear every single hat.
Exactly.
And the tough thing is you probably don't know how to do everything that you're trying to do. So what I do is, like with you, I reach out to people I see doing something that maybe I'm not. If I see you're backed, higher than me, or you've sold more books, or whatever it is that I see on your side that I'm not doing, and I'm the first one to be like, hey, so how'd you do that? I want to grow. I want to better myself. So how do I do that? How do I do what you just did? There's very few creators out there that will hold that to their chest, because it's not like they invented it.
Oh yeah. Nothing we're talking about is new. None of this is new.
None of this is we're reinventing the wheel. This is something taking what has worked for years and just implementing it in a way that works for us. So I'm going to start closing it up here, but I think that one of the big takeaways from tonight is try to grow organically. Grassroots marketing as much as you can is going to help, because word of mouth. A big thing about grassroots marketing is word of mouth. Staying consistent with your presence on social media, staying consistent with your image, being like the Todd McFarlane that never stops, never give up.
Relentless.
Relentless. Take that criticism and grow from it. Don't get down from it. And research what you're about to put on Kickstarter. Is your goal attainable? Is your goal the goal that it should be? Talk to other people and figure out, hey, how does this Kickstarter look? I've had a few people that send me their launch pages, but their pre-launch pages. Hey, what do you think? Is there anything I can do better?
Right.
Would you purchase my book? Is what they're saying.
Exactly.
And I've actually told the last two people that sent me their Kickstarter, I wouldn't. I'm going to back this because I like you and I want this book. But if this were a book I came across, I wouldn't back it. Well, why not? One of them was price points. The other one was the overall layout of the page. So get that feedback, grow from it. And Nick, go ahead. What's launching tomorrow?
So Demon Hunter Raven Chapter 3 will be launching tomorrow at 12 p.m. Central Time. There will be a day one special print for anyone that backs within those first 24 hours. So we are going to be doing, it's in graphic novel format, so it's going to be soft cover. It's going to be 68 pages for a standard edition. That's just the main story. But if you want more content, for over 100 pages extra, you can upgrade to a deluxe edition, which will be exclusive to the campaigns, which will be on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. This will not be going out to retails. This won't be going up on my page even. This will be exclusive to the campaign. It's going to have close to about 40 to 50 more pages extra content, which will be three more extra stories, which will debut History of the Demon Hunters, which will explore the lore and the history and just the myths that center around this universe. You're going to discover new hunters within this realm as well. And then there'll be also some behind the scenes stuff that we'll add at the end too, what people love to see. But the main story is going to follow Raven on his continuing adventures as he's going to be coming up against the Coven now, who have been bewitching the city of Twin Cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul. So catch us tomorrow, where it's going to be a blast. We're going to go hunting, so come and join us.
Awesome. And where can they find you on social media?
I am Nicholas Raven Mueller, as the bar says down here. Anywhere else on Instagram, I am BMR Comics, because I don't like being, simple.
Awesome. You get a couple things in here. Jack can't wait, and he did get your books. Now Jack's in Australia, so it took a while for him to get there. He just recently got your books and said that they came in and looked very professional. I myself, I'm from Homebrewed Comics, on Instagram, Homebrewed Comics, website, homebrewedcomics.com, and on Facebook, Homebrewed Comics, but it's with an X, not a CS, because I was too late to the game. Somebody stole that one. I am launching issues 0 through 3 on Indiegogo Wednesday. I think you and I are probably going to wind up doing some cross promos, things like that.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, we get along great. We talk all the time. I will have over 100 pages of content. No, yeah, don't like this guy. He's just on here because he looks cool. I like the glasses.
Wait till the camera's off, the live thing's off. We're all just,
hate each other. But in all seriousness, both of us have projects launching this week, so please check it out. I will be posting, and Tuesday night, Nick and I will also appear on the Phalanx, which is from Pharaoh's Creative Studios. So check us out. As always, please go to Indie Comics Dispatch on YouTube. Follow, like, and follow them. Also, there is a Patreon, which we just exceeded 10 members. So on Indie Comics Dispatch, I will be hosting a Dungeons and Dragons session for the team. I believe there will be exclusive content for our Patreon followers, and we'll probably have like a live thing for all of our followers as well. But we're going to be doing some behind the scenes footage, I guess, for our Patreon. So that's going to be cool for me, because that means I get to do some like cool creative stuff on my side with the DM, the Dungeon Master or Game Master, or whatever you want to call me. With that, we thank you all for spending the last hour and 15 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and end this broadcast. Good night, guys.
Bye.